Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure for giving me the opportunities to present my work. My name is Peng Fuzhou. The title of our work is Goal-Oriented Communication for Data Updating over Random Delay Channel. My presentation is divided into 4 parts. First is the introduction, where I will introduce the background of our work. Second is the system model and problem formulation, and we will study the optimal updating policy in the third part. Finally, the simulation results are provided. Now, let's begin with the introduction part. The traditional byte levels communications remains organized to the semantics of transmitted message. They only guarantees reliable information reconstruction, and their performance is measured by bit error rate. However, the goal-oriented communication paradigm shift its object from mere reliable information reconstruction to the successful execution of a goal at the receiver. They emphasize the significance of information and its relevance to a specific task for ensuring the successful execution of a goal. Their performance is measured by how efficiently the message serves the goal. Wire matrix has been introduced to evaluate the effectiveness of information in achieving specific goals. A key metric in this domain is age of information, shortly AOI, which measures the time elapsed since the generation of the most recently received update. However, AOI only measures freshness over time, falling short in fully characterizing the contents within update. There are two content-aware metrics. First is the mean square error, which characterizes the accuracy assessed of information. The second is the age of encrypted information, which was introduced by adding a time penalty only when the receiver remains in an erroneous state. However, these two metrics cannot be calculated at the receiver in real time, as the receiver cannot observe the state of the physical process until receiving the status update packet. For timely detection of status updates, a new information freshness matrix, age of change information, shortly AOCI, was proposed as receiving an update with unchanged content implies a probable missed detection. AOCI penalized such occurrence. This matrix is easy to calculate at the receiver and prove useful as a goal-oriented matrix for remote state tracking tasks. The definition of AOCI satisfies the following equations, where UT primo is the generation time of the nuanced packet that has different contents compared with the packet in front of it. Now, let me start the system model and problem formulation part. The system model is shown in the following figures, which consists of 5 parts mainly. A continue-time state update system composed of a sensor and a destination. The sensor sends updates slower random delay channel with constant power, denoted as C. The sensor does not generate a new update when the channel is delivering updates. Upon the successful transmission of an update, an acknowledgement is fed back to the sensor with zero delay. The physical process is modeled as a continue-time Markov process xt with state space S, where its state number n is not smaller than 2, and its Riemann Q satisfies 1, where lambda n quantifies how fast a state transition occurs. State return probability is defined as the probabilities that the state of the physical process is the same after delta t time, which is given by following equations. And we provide a lemma about the return probability. We could state that the return probability consists of two terms, where the constant term characterizes the long-term behavior of the Markov chain, where the state will converge to the stationary distribution. The exponential term displays the instant behavior, and it will tend to zero as the time tends to infinity. In this paper, we consider the series where the transition rate is large. It means that its state is fast changing. And thus, the exponential term can be omitted. In these slides, we provide some definition of the notations in later use. Suppose the sensor sends I updates at time Si and its transmission delay is Yi. The channel delay Yi's are identical independently distribution with the distribution Py. The I's update is received at time Di. The sensor waits a time Ji before sending the I plus 1 update at time Si plus 1. We aim to minimize the time average waiting sum of AOCI and energy consumption by controlling the waiting time of the sensor. Repeat denotes the updating policies. The optimization problem is formulated as equation 2, where IT is an indicator function that takes values 1 only when the sensor is transmitting an update. Now, we study the optimal updating policies. To simplify the original problem 2, we divide the time between two decrees in AOCI into separate parts. Each part consists of several stages. To identify the variable associated with specific transmissions, we use two subscripts in the variables, where the first subscript denoted the path, and the second subscript indicated the stage, such as DI K denotes the delivery time of the transmission in the I part and K stage. Therefore, the original problem 2 can be simplified as a multi-variable optimization problem based on the previous notation definition. Without rules of generality, we simplify the notation nj, gy as n and g respectively. Consequently, the objective function of 3 is simplified as 4. We directly give the ordinal non-causal policy in theorem 1. By theorem 1, the optimal policy has a threshold structure, where the sensor generates an update only when the AOCI exceeds the threshold. However, the solution depends on G, which is not a causal policy since we cannot know the G before each transmission is occurred. Later, we will explore the ordinal causal policy. Now, based on the result of theorem 1, we redefine the time interval and notations once again. We start by defining the first updating time after a decreasing of AOCI as Si. The time interval from Si to Si plus 1 as the I frame, and the summation of channel delay of frame I as Gi, the last channel delay of a frame I as Yi, and the waiting time for the next updating as Ji, as shown in the figures. Similarly, we revise the original problem 2 as 9. Furthermore, problem 9 can be simplified as 10. And we directly give the ordinal causal policy in theorem 2. The optimal threshold can be obtained by the bisection algorithm. Now, we start the simulation part. We will evaluate the system performance of the following policies. The zero-wait policies. These policies immediately updates a new status when the last packet is delivered to the destination. The AOI ordinal policy, a content-agnostic policy. This policy has a threshold structure. And the last policy is the AOCI ordinal policy. It's a content-aware policy proposed in theorem 2. These policies also has a threshold structure. Now we compare the time average cost of 3 policies with different transmission power C. We can see that figure 1. We can see that the proposed policy, the AOCI optimal policies, achieves the lowest time average cost, while the zero-wait policies is suboptimal compared with the other policies. We also see that both 3 policies achieves the same performance when C equals to 0, which is because there is no constraints in energy consumption. Figure 2 depicts the efforts of return probabilities in the system performance. We can see that the proposed policy is still optimal when PR equals to 0. The AOCI optimal policy and AOI optimal policies obtain the same cost, where the matrix AOCI equals to AOI matrix, and this time, when PR tends to 1, the cost of the AOI optimal policies increase faster than the other two policies. In this series, the AOI optimal policy is far from optimal. Now, we will evaluate the three policies with the log normal delay distribution, as the previous two simulations is evaluated in exponential distribution, where sigma is the variance of the log absence value of channel delay. As sigma grows, the tail of the distribution becomes heavier. We can observe that the cost of the zero-wave policy grows faster than the AOI optimal and the AOCI optimal policy. In addition, the gap between the AOI optimal policy and AOCI optimal policies increase as sigma grows. To summarize, the AOCI optimal policies is optimal in different delay distribution, which reveals its generality. That's all. Thank you for listening.